of the interwebs, Lugnuts.Guapo coming at you from Maverick Harley-Davidson, and I'm kind of doing this one in a hurry because I have a lot going on, and I'm sorry you haven't seen a video in a while. That's because it's just been hectic with this new gig, and anyways, that's beside the point. You're here to watch a video, first ride impressions on the LowRider ST, and thankfully I have an errand to run and I have to get on the highway, so you'll see this on the highway, which I'm really excited. So without further ado, roll that intro. Ooh la la, ooh la la, ooh la la. We're about to show you some of the details here in a second, but so far it feels like a LowRider S, just a regular LowRider S. There's a couple of things that I was looking at earlier that I don't like and things that I do like. So just so you know, when I say, if I were to say, hey, this motorcycle is fast, just keep in mind that that is within context. I know for all them sport bike riders, this is not nearly as fast as a ZX-10R or, you know, BMW 1000R or whatever the case may be. It's within context. Oh yeah, get it! Woo! It feels like a 117. It really honestly doesn't feel much different than the LowRider S, the new LowRider S with the 117. This thing feels good, and the wind is right about hitting me right underneath the chin, or like maybe, yeah, like right at the chin piece of my helmet. And oh man, that fairing is it's actually like nice. Like I hardly feel any wind hitting my chest. And that's also including the fact that there is a gap in the front of the fairing. There's a gap, obviously there's 3 gaps, kind of like a Road Glide would. Obviously a little smaller than a Road Glide. But it definitely, for a day like this, where it's probably in the mid 80s right now, or maybe even high 80s. Anyways, regardless, the wind is just, it hits you like nice. It's not like a huge like turbulent pocket behind the fairing, which is really nice. The weight added because of the fairing is honestly not, I don't notice it at all. Yeah, there, the torque is all there. Now, if this thing had a stage 1 or a stage 2, this thing, you wouldn't need, I mean, honestly, in stock form, it's just nice. But if you did stage 1, stage 2 on a 117, you would get a substantial amount of bump in torque and horsepower. It is just absolutely nice. And even again in stock form, that 117 feels pretty smooth. It feels like you would be riding a CVO in terms of like torque and horsepower. It feels very, very similar in comparison to the 114 LowRider S. There is a small difference. Like I mean, I ride these bikes all the time because of my work, but because of that, I can feel a difference. A lot of people probably will say I don't feel any difference whatsoever, but that's because they're not riding these motorcycles all the time. There is a noticeable difference, but I wouldn't say it's substantial. Again, it's more displacement, right? No replacement for displacement is the same. And you feel that extra, what is it, 3 cubic inches? It's nice. I mean, it is absolutely nice. The seating position, absolutely love it. I am about 6 foot, or maybe 5'11", 6 foot, somewhere around there. So if you're thinking about buying a LowRider ST, this is what you're looking at if you're about that height. It's comfortable. I mean, everything on this bike is completely stock. Our marketing manager, Stephanie, is the first one to get this at our dealership. She pre-ordered it, and she absolutely loves it. She's gotten to ride like 2-3 days already, and she says she loves everything about it. She had a 107 Street Bob, and this traffic always gets me right at this point. And it's not California, so lane splitting is not really a thing. regardless, she absolutely loves this setup, especially because when she does do road trips, she does road trips. I mean, last time, well, at one point she went all the way from Texas to California in her little Nightster, and I'm pretty sure ever since then this is a huge bump up. Now right now we're doing about 70 miles an hour, and it feels, oh, just glorious. It feels stable, it feels smooth. Oh, like I said, like that wind barely like hits my chin bar right here on my helmet, and it's not super windy today, which is nice. And it would be nicer if there was wind, that way I could kind of get that feel. But this fairing does quite a bit of deflecting on the air. Basically putting my hand like down here, but right around here, so a little bit further into the fairing is where you feel the air coming around that fairing. Let's see, I was in 5th gear, so now we're in 6th gear, probably 80 miles an hour. Man, it's this fairing is actually really nice. I don't know if they put, I'm assuming they put it in a wind tunnel, but it does feel quite nice as it sits. I mean, again, I'm one-handing it, and it feels so incredibly stable. Now, when it comes to the fairing, obviously, it's a kind of like a love-hate thing. I know a lot of people will talk crap about it, and it's okay. It looks right. It doesn't quite look like the RP fairing, but it kind of does, and it kind of doesn't. So it just, that is aesthetics alone. That's, I mean, that's your opinion. But when it comes to like the actual setup and the functionality of that fairing, it's actually really good. Now, I think she ordered the Rockford stereo that's basically plug and play. The harness is already in the fairing, which is really cool. It literally is plug and play. Take a couple bolts out, thing snaps in, bolt it back in. The harness is already in there, so it just literally a quick plug and play, which is fantastic. Now, as the speakers look pretty small, but it is Rockford audio. So there's no telling how that will sound. Maybe in the future, once she gets it in, I can do another video and show it to you guys. But this whole setup is just nice. It's pretty clean. Now, I will say this. It is kind of a, I do wish, one of the few things that I do wish this thing had was like dual gauges, or even just a single gauge. So kind of like, there's like this gap back there, and I'll show you, there's a couple screws back there, and maybe like a little plastic nipple to cover it or something to like hide it would have been nice. Like, I was like, I mean, it really is a couple cents, guys. Like, why can we just add that on there? It seems like a no-brainer, and that kind of bothers me. So there's this gap that I can kind of see over the riser or a speedo cluster, and it's just, it is a little bit annoying, but at the same time, maybe it blocks the wind coming, or deflects the wind coming from the entryway there in the fairing, but maybe not, I don't know. But I do wish they did what they did with the LowRider S, which is put the gauge up here instead of like this kind of street bob leftover part that they just slapped on there. That's kind of like to me is a little bit annoying. I wish they would have just stuck with the dual gauges or a single gauge up here, but again, aesthetics, really, I just don't like to see like the back of the fairing back there, because it's not super amazing looking back there. But you know, that's nor here nor there. It is what it is. So one of the things that I will say is the bracket on this thing. I'm trying to decide if I'm exiting here or not. The bracket on this thing to hold the fairing is stout, and I don't know if you've ever heard about this, but on the new frames on the 2022s, there's a hole, I believe it's on the near the neck, and it's supposed, basically it's for this fairing, and that way they don't have to like make a separate frame or a different frame for the ST. However, you might think that, oh yeah, I can absolutely put this fairing on my, you know, 2022, I don't know, whatever softail you want. Well, yes and no. I guess technically you could, but technically, according to Harley-Davidson, you shouldn't do that. And the reason why is because they say that the front ends on a lot of their softails could not hold at high speeds, and for maneuverability reasons, could not hold this fairing where it should, or it just affects everything about the motorcycle. So what they're saying is you need this front end in order to put this fairing and rock this fairing at the same time, because that could turn into a big issue real quick. I don't know about that. I mean, that's what Harley says. We're really curious to see if it really affects it. I'm sure someone will just go ahead and ignore that and buy their own fairing and add it onto whatever soft toe, maybe a sort of 17 lowrider, and then just, you know, drill a hole through the neck and just do that, or behind the neck rather. But anyways, that's what Harley says. The fairing, honestly, it's really gonna depend. If you, I don't know, you might like it, you might hate it, there's just no telling. That's definitely an aesthetics thing, but people do like this fairing, and there's a few that I've heard that don't like this fairing. Holy mackerel! That's some good torque. Oh man. The saddlebags on these are basically like the Sport Glide, which the only issue that I have with that is like on the right side, now that this has like some higher clearance, that right saddlebag does feel smaller than the left saddlebag, or maybe it's backwards. I think it's, yeah, it's the right saddlebag, because that's where it goes over the exhaust. I wish they would have made them somewhat the same size, or at least hide it. But I think because they discontinued the Sport Glide and have now the LowRider ST, I mean, they probably just use the same parts for that, which on one hand is kind of annoying, but on the other hand, I totally understand that. I mean, that's just manufacturing right there. Anyways, I'm almost here to my destination. I hope you like this video. Click like, subscribe, and share with your homies. And what are your thoughts on the new ST? I'm really curious to know. Give me your feedback, and yeah, check me out on other social media platforms. But until I see you next time, get on your Harley or on two wheels and get some wind therapy. Later.